Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Rise Up and Share Your Medicine podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you. Today is episode 138, Integration, the Sacred Digestion Your Heart Craves. So, I'm so excited to talk to you about that today. And if you're new to my work, my name is Lisa Espinosa. I am a spiritual career coach, and I coach helpers, change makers, visionaries, creatives, entrepreneurs, but really that whatever your job title, or even if you're retired or semi-retired, you have this longing, this prayer, this intention to be of service, to help others, to radiate your light, to share your unique gifts, what I call your unique soul's medicine with the world. And so I coach my clients to be able to do that and to get through the very common obstacles that helpers face. So obstacles such as like overextending, self-sacrifice, minimizing your worth, or hiding, staying in the background, not stepping into your expertise and sharing your wisdom from that place. There's lots of others, but really overcoming that and then really stepping into that sovereign helper identity so that you can help the world in a way that blesses you in the process. Not only blesses you, but it's like you can help create the most impact without burnout, without overwhelm, and actually through overflow. So that's what I help my clients with. And in this podcast, I share these many teachings of topics that I see come up over and over and over in the 15 years that I've been doing this work with my clients, so that you have this transformation that as you listen, you're like, oh, yes, this makes sense to me. This resonates. This helps me to shift my thinking. This helps me to go out and share my light in a deeper way. And then these teachings are anchored in, right? Are here in the YouTube library so that you can go back to them. So I really wanted this integration one because I don't think I've done one specifically on that today. This, it's 138 episodes. I don't think I've done that in this series. So let's talk about what integration means. And what I want you to think about with integration, it is digestion. It's sacred digestion. That's the easiest way to think about it. So what I mean by that is think about when you digest food, right? You have a delicious meal in front of you. Hopefully it's a delicious meal. You eat it. And as you eat it, right, digestion starts in the mouth. You start chewing. It goes through all of the things eventually so that your cells can take in the nutrition of the food that you ate. And then your physical body also recognizes that not all of it was nutrition. A lot of it needs to be released as waste. And so you can think of it that way, as sacred digestion of your life, of your experiences, of your, what I call your initiations. Your initiations are those experiences that you had, and let's talk about this year, that you've had this year already, that led to a transformation, right? That you started this way and then you went through the initiation, and on the other end, you were a different person. And to be clear, when I say a different person, I actually mean you are more you. That some of the facade, the protections, the layers we put around ourselves were dissolved and more of your light was revealed. Okay. And so at this time here in August of 2025, I know you might be watching this at another time. So this still applies, whenever you watch this. But if you are watching it currently in this present time, this is such a perfect time to talk about integration. Now, integration, you are doing throughout the day, every day. Ideally, we're doing throughout the day, every few months, and so on. And then there come these like milestones in the year where your soul is really inviting you to step into a sacred pause. Okay, a sacred pause to integrate. And Please know a sacred pause doesn't mean you're stuck or going backwards or stagnant in any way. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of reflection to be like, you know what, I need a sacred pause. And so next week I'll be leading a retreat, a virtual retreat, which is going to be just that, a sacred pause. And one of the things we're going to be doing is integrating. So I wanted also to do this as a pre-teaching for that. So before I get into, well, how do you integrate? What are you integrating? I want to talk a little bit about why do we resist it? If it's so needed, because this is the thing. Everyone, I really believe every human needs integration. But for the helpers, it is more important. Why is that? One is, and I'm sorry, I was hoping I was going to have to blow my nose, but I have been doing some like sort of cleansing. So sorry, everyone. I've been, my respiratory system has been doing a lot of cleansing these last several weeks, and I'm going through these ups and downs, but I was going to show up and I was going to be here. So what I was saying is everybody integrates, but for the helpers, for those of you who are watching this, it's more important. It's essential. Why is that? Because a couple of things. One, as a helper, you actually go through a lot more initiations than the average person. You are in an accelerated curriculum. There is, and you might recognize this as I say this, you might be like, oh my gosh, I feel like that's always happening to me, right? Or maybe you recognize in the last few months or the last few years, there's been an acceleration of lessons, of experiences that often feel challenging. But then you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I learned so much from that experience. Oh my gosh, I became so much more compassionate from that experience. Oh my gosh, I became so much more confident and strong and powerful and wise from that experience. So because there's so much curriculum, your curriculum is rich, there's so much that you're here to do, there's more integration required. Because if you don't integrate, what happens is it leads to heaviness and stagnation. And it leads to you not recognizing the growth and expansion. So that's the first thing. Second thing, why do we resist integration then? If it's so great and amazing, why do we resist it? So here are the reasons. And I'm sharing these so that you can recognize, oh, is that a reason I resist it? Please know I've done all of these and still do at times, right? The difference is I've been doing this for so long that I catch it sooner when I'm resisting it, and I allow it then to happen. So the first reason is a lot of people don't understand it. We don't get taught this in school unless you were very blessed and went to an amazing school that talked about these things, or had parents that were so deeply connected to spirituality and these understandings and taught you it. Most of us weren't taught what integration even means. And there aren't a lot of especially in modern culture, set up in a way that facilitates integration. So first thing is just not knowing. Okay, so that's one reason. The other reason is that integration requires, like I just said, a sacred pause. Doesn't mean a long pause. It doesn't have to be, it could be an hour, 2 hours, it could be a little longer, it could be a little less. But it does require a sacred pause. And it requires, and sometimes that's very difficult, especially if you're in a hurry. If there is a goal or something you're trying to create, and maybe it's very beautiful, something that's going to help a lot of people, or it's going to help you, it's very easy for us to resist the present moment, and we just want to get to the other side, right? It's like, oh my gosh, like things are going to be so much better once my book is out, or once I've gotten through this really challenging thing, or once I have the 5 new clients, or once I make this amount of money, or once whatever, fill in the blank. And when we're in a hurry, first of all, that's never coming from our soul. That's our egoic mind. It's a very human thing to do. But when we're in a hurry, we can have this thought that's like, I don't have time to pause. Yeah, it'd be nice, but I don't have time. I have to just keep going, right? So that's the second reason. And the third reason is if you have a very active self-critic, which is also a very common thing for us helpers to have, is that we have this very active self-critic, like self-judgment. And integration, I want to be very clear, is meant to be a very compassionate, curious, joyful process. But when we have a very active self-critic, we can turn that into almost feeling like when you're back at school and the principal calls you to his or her office and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is like report card pickup, right? Like you're going to be told, these are the things you did good, these are the things you did bad, oh my gosh, look at this, you should be doing better. It's like we project that onto our soul, and so we can resist looking back, because integration does require looking back, not to stay stuck there, but just to integrate. And it'll be clear as I go through these steps. So notice if you have a self-critic that's like, I don't want to look back, that's thinking like, I should be further ahead, or I made mistakes, or that's afraid to do that because of the self-judgment. And if that is the case, first of all, don't judge that. That's very normal. It happens to all of us. But then remember, wait a minute. I do this with my soul, and my soul loves me unconditionally. Some of our greatest lessons come through quote unquote failure, right? So that's another reason that we can really resist it. And the final reason, it's similar to this, but it's a little different, is if you had a year where there was a lot of loss, or just like challenging things, and there was sadness or grief, there could be a part that's like, I don't want to look back because I'm finally in a better place and I just don't want to feel sad again. I don't want to cry anymore. Often people will tell me like, and I thought this too, like when Greg first got diagnosed with cancer last October, it felt like if I let myself cry, I'm never going to stop. But I've actually really tested that, and it's not true. Eventually there is a stopping point, just so you know. But it could feel like that. It could feel like I just can't look back. I don't want to cry anymore. It's going to make me so sad. I don't want to grieve. We can be afraid of that. So notice if that perhaps is part of it, right? So the first step to integration, well, first is to understand it's sacred digestion and why it's so important for helpers to integrate so that you can move forward with more clarity, more ease, more lightheartedness, more wisdom. And then understand the resistance. Why do we resist it? So notice if any of those. And if you're here live, feel free to share in the chat or in the comments, like what comes up for you? Like what is a reason that you resist it? Maybe it's just like, I just didn't even know. Like I actually had never understood integration. Or maybe it's something else. Okay, so now let's get to, again, the two parts of integration or sacred digestion. Okay, remember, compare it to eating. So the first part when we eat is our body, through all the processes of digestion, takes in the nutrition so that our cells can be fueled. So that's the first step of integration, is you look back. So let's say, at next week's retreat, we'll be doing this. I'll be guiding you through a meditation, through an inner journey with your soul, so that your soul can guide this, where you look back. And I want to be clear, because our ego mind just likes to complicate everything. This is meant to be a simple process. So it doesn't mean that you're going to look back, let's just say this year to January, and you have to remember everything. Like, because that can feel overwhelming, like, oh my gosh. When you do this in a sacred way, your soul is going to bring to your heart, to your mind, the things, the events, the experiences, the initiations that your soul wants you to integrate. So you don't need to worry about like, oh my gosh, let me look at my calendar and everything that happened. No, your soul's going to know. And so you're going to look back, and really, this is the aspect of receiving the gifts. Of looking back and like, what were the gifts? And at the end, I'm going to share some prompts, which I actually sent in an email newsletter this week, but I thought it would be helpful to share them here as well. That will help you do this. But I want to give you some examples of some common gifts that we get throughout the year, because I think this can really help anchor it for you. Okay. And I have them written down here because I didn't want to forget. So One of the gifts you might recognize when you do your inner journey with your soul, and again, we'll do this together in next week's retreat. And, if you join me, we'll do that together. So one is an expansion of understanding. So there might have been experiences that you went through that help you understand your healing modality more deeply, helped you understand a process more deeply. So for example, I'll just keep using this because this is a big one for me, right? And although Greg got diagnosed in October, he didn't start chemotherapy till December, like very little bit. And then in December, also my first granddaughter was born, little Lila. And then January was really like full force into the treatment, right? So if I look back to January, my soul has been guiding me to look back. And when I think of like, well, what was the gift of that experience? There were so many, but there was definitely a deeper of understanding of one, how to be with grief in a good way. And when I say in a good way, I mean how to be in relationship with it, how not to resist it, but also not drown in it. And I wasn't perfect at it by any means, but it was really, when I look back, I'm like, wow, that was like a master class in noticing when I resisted it, when I was scared of my grief, when I wanted to run away from it, but when it was important for me to actually be with it and let myself cry, when I realized, oh, how much better I felt actually when I let it happen. Like there was so much about that. There was a deeper understanding of grief. And that's very important for the work I do with my clients. Not that they're dealing necessarily with cancer, but when you are a helper, just when you're a human, there's always something we're grieving. There's always some loss. And we have to become masterful at grieving. And I think sometimes that scares people because they think, that sounds awful. Like I'm just going to be crying and sad all day long. But it's actually the opposite. When you are able to do that, you're able to, first of all, it moves through your body quicker. And then you're able to access deep joy, gratitude, connection, compassion, like in such a beautiful way. So that was a big expansion of understanding for me. There was also the deeper understanding of being with the unknown, right? It's like, oh my gosh, there was so much unknown. How would the chemotherapy sessions go? How would Greg respond? There was just some logistics, like could I be in the room? There was so much unknown. And so there was an expansion of my ability to be in the unknown. So again, this is first category of gifts. When you look back, notice, and your soul will show you, like, what was your expansion of understanding? What do you understand now more deeply that you couldn't understand by reading a book? Like I could have read a book about grief or being with the unknown. In fact, I have read books about that. And certainly it helps with learning, but it's very different than living it. That's embodied understanding. Okay, so that's the first level. The other thing that's important is that is a great gift is greater compassion. Compassion is one of those qualities that your soul has, right? Your soul is infinitely compassionate. So if you ever catch yourself judging yourself or judging others, have compassion for yourself and know that's not coming from my soul. That's my human brain, and we all do it. But compassion is one of the gifts, one of the medicines that the world needs the most right now. It just is. The compassion is not pity. That's different. And maybe I'll do a podcast about compassion. But anyway, compassion is one of the most important qualities. So as a helper, you must become masterful at compassion. Now, as a helper, and this is the things I coach my clients with, we confuse compassion, like I said, with pity, with rescuing, with saving, with taking on people's pain. That is not what compassion is. That's a whole other thing. Compassion is when you're truly aligned with your soul. You can have compassion for humanity, for others, and not be overwhelmed by it. That's the key. So going through these experiences I went through this year, when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I already thought I was a compassionate person. Please, again, when I say this, please know I'm a learner just as you. So I'm not saying like I thought I had mastered it. But I know that's been a training all of my life. But this was a whole other level, right? Of like, oh my gosh, just everything I shared already, how deep I had to dig deep into my heart to really like access compassion for myself. That's always the hardest thing. And when that happened, when I was able to tap into compassion for myself, then I had so much compassion for anybody who's ever dealt with a scary diagnosis, or facing their mortality or the mortality of somebody that they love, and understanding how hard that is and how different it is to read about it than and then actually experience it. It was a whole other level, right? So I really want to encourage you to, when you look back, notice what were the experiences that happened in your life this year that expanded compassion. Now, the reason we do this process is that you might not have consciously realized that. Maybe it's not until now when you look back that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even recognize that. But yes, that actually did open up more compassion. I haven't allowed it to come forth, but I do feel that expanded compassion. And when you have that compassion, it increases your strength, your ability to take risks, your ability to put yourself out there. Because think about it, as a helper, you're constantly being guided to step outside of your comfort zone, to share your book, to share your writing, to share your words, to share your message, to share your medicine, to put yourself out there to be criticized and judged by some. That's just going to happen. It's part of the journey. But truly, what holds us back the most is our own self-criticism. It's like, oh my gosh, what if I schedule a class and nobody shows up? I'm going to be so embarrassed. I'm going to feel like a total dummy, and I'm just going to judge myself. But when you increase your compassion, you're more willing to take risks. It's not like you're going to be happy necessarily if you fail or you quote unquote make a fool of yourself, but you're going to have compassion for yourself, and you're going to know, I have my own back. I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, so notice if that's one of them. The other thing I already talked about, but this is a great gift that we're constantly being trained in, is comfort in the unknown. This is a huge one. I help my clients so much with this. I get help with this from my coach. So the unknown, it doesn't have to be a diagnosis. It could be, let's say you're up-leveling your career and you want a different type of clientele, but they're not showing up yet. And you're like, when are they going to show up? I'm doing everything and nobody's coming. Or you create a product and nobody's buying it. Or you are dealing with some sort of illness or physical limitation, and you've been working on it and working on it and working on it, and the healing is going so slow, and you're like, oh my gosh, when is it going to fully get better? There's so many aspects of being in the unknown, or you want to sell your house and it's not selling, or you feel like you're being called to relocate, but that's not clear yet. I mean, there's so many. And in the unknown, I've shared other episodes about this, what our human mind wants to do right away is like, it hates the unknown. So it's like, let me take action, let me do something, we sabotage it, right? We're like, it's taking too long to get the results, let me go volunteer. It's taking too long to get the job of my dreams, let me just say yes to this job, which I don't really like, but at least I'm saying yes to it, right? It's like, no, like, so you, as you look back, you might be like, oh my gosh, yeah, this year I was so much with the unknown. It wasn't fun. I didn't love it. There were times where I hated it, but I stayed with it. I kept coming back to building trust in my soul. So that might be your gift that you received. The other gift that's very powerful, and we're all being trained in as helpers, is your ability to be with other people's discomfort. This is a really big one. It's a really big one, and it's a particularly challenging one for helpers, because as a helper, you have a helper heart. You want to make people feel better. In fact, in a way, you're designed for that. You're designed to bring about creative solutions. You're designed to help people connect with a feeling of joy and inspiration. So when you see somebody in pain and discomfort, your human aspect can very understandably so want to be like, fix it. Let me fix it. Let me like give advice or distract. But one of the things right now that the world needs the most is helpers that can walk with others, can witness other people being in pain, being in discomfort. Maybe it's not even full pain or suffering, but just being uncomfortable and not like interrupting it because we're uncomfortable with it. To actually be able to witness it with compassion and not get overwhelmed, like, oh, this is too much, let me leave, or let me fix it, or judgment, or all the things, and just be with it. Why is this so important? Because right now, as a human race, a lot of people are going to be going through a lot of dark nights of the soul, a lot of initiations. The whole planet is going through that. So there's going to be a lot of people going through a lot of pain and discomfort. And the world is set up to distract. Oh, I'm in pain. Let me look at social media. Oh, I'm in pain. Let me go eat. Oh, I'm in pain. Let me whatever. And there's no judgment. Like we all do that. But we as helpers are learning, first of all, through our own mastery, to not distract, right? And to be able to be with someone when they're in pain. When I have when I meet with my clients, when I meet with potential clients, one of the greatest gifts that I can give them, especially potential clients that I might not ever meet with again, right? I mean, sometimes they end up becoming my clients, but sometimes not. And when they share something painful that's happening in their life, and it could be painful, any level of pain, maybe just painful because they're frustrated and they're like, oh, I just want to share my creative gifts and I don't know how, I keep getting distracted from it. Or maybe it's something that's feels a lot more intense. But to just be with somebody that's not trying to talk them out of it or give them advice or just that is uncomfortable, but just can create a sacred space for them to be with all of that, that is such a gift. So if that was part of the initiation you went through this year, that now your ability to be with other people's discomfort has increased, that is a huge, huge gift. This can also show up, for example, as you keep up leveling your service, there's always a phase of creating loving boundaries, right? And so this can be one of the hardest things to do, again, for heart-led helpers. Somebody requests something from you, even maybe invites you, let's go have coffee or come to this gathering I'm doing or be part of this group that I'm teaching. And although it sounds lovely, you just know in your heart, this is just not for me. I need to say no to this because I actually need that time so that I can work on my book or so that I can meditate or whatever, or I've outgrown it. And then it requires you to say no to this person. And when we are not trained in being with other people's discomfort or other people's disappointment, it can literally feel like the hardest thing in the world to set that boundary. But as you develop that muscle, you can lovingly say, thank you so much for the invitation, but it's a no for me now. And even if they're like, oh, feel bad or judge you or all of the things, you can stay with the boundary because you don't feel like you have to fix their feelings. It's okay. They can feel bad. They can be disappointed. They can judge you. That is one of the things I have learned over and over, which actually Mother Mary was the one who was really taught me this years ago, where I was dealing with a particularly intense situation where a lot of people were judging me. And I had this part that was like, oh, it's so unfair. I know I'm going to do this and they're going to all judge me as whatever. I don't even remember, honestly, as weak or as like, I'm not strong enough for this, but that's actually not the reason. And I was so like, I didn't want them to think the wrong thing about me. And I was praying and meditating. I was talking to Mother Mary because she's one of my mentors. And when I say Mother Mary, again, it's not about religion. It's Ascended Master Mother Mary, right? And she was like, Lisa, this is initiating you and letting other people be wrong about you. And I was like, it's like, that feels awful. But I understood what she was saying. I had to be able to do that, because if not, I was inevitably going into people pleasing or holding back because I didn't want people to judge me a certain way. And I was like, okay, I just have to let people be wrong about me. And that has happened so many times where I've just had to let people be wrong about me. That's okay. It's not my job to convince them of anything. I just have to stay on my path. Okay? So those are examples of gifts. Now, of course, there's more tangible gifts. Maybe you moved and you have a beautiful house that feels more in alignment, or you got a new job and you have coworkers that feel more in alignment, or whatever. There's also the tangible things, but it's important to really pick up on those intangible gifts. Now, what are you releasing that's the waste? Old lessons that no longer need to be repeated. And this feels so obvious, but it's amazing to me when we don't integrate, we can miss the lesson. And then your soul's like, I don't think she got the lesson. So we got to send her another experience about this. And I know, I don't know about you, but for me, I don't want to repeat lessons if it's unnecessary. Like if my soul can be like, all right, she got that, check. We don't need to do that again. I prefer that than repeating a lesson over and over and over and over, because I haven't taken the time to integrate. So that's one. Also, sometimes we have, and this is something we'll do in the retreat, I'm going to do energy healing to help clear any congested emotions that are still in your body. So, for example, for me, I know part of all this detoxification that is going through my body is, even though I was processing a lot throughout the year, there's still grief, worry, stress, panic still in my body, even through everything that I did to help that. So as I do yoga, as I go to, as I meditate, as I go for energy healing sessions myself, all of that is helping to clear any heaviness from my body, from my tissues, so that I don't take that with me. And also so it doesn't clog my intuition. Okay, so we'll be doing that next week on Thursday. Also, what you're releasing, same thing with energy healing, we're going to do this, is other people's stuff. What is other people's stuff? Other people's projections, expectations, disappointments, right? So and it could be people it could be loved ones, it could be just strangers on the street, because you're just such a sensitive person, you just pick up stuff. And you might have picked up people's projections, right? They're projecting their own their own self-judgment onto you. So what's a projection? It's like when somebody can't look at themselves, right? It's so painful, they haven't learned how to look at their own inner world, and maybe things that they are disappointed in themselves. So instead of looking inside, they look outside and judge, right? And so maybe, as a helper, that's something that happens a lot to us. And we're meant to absolutely, yes, not take it personally and not take it into our bodies. So maybe there's projections, other people's expectations, right? So other people might not like your changes. Maybe they're like, no, you should still be like you were before. I liked you better when you didn't set boundaries. I liked you better when you said yes to any request. I liked you better when you always came and saved me if I was in pain. And so you could be feeling that energetically, or other people's disappointment, kind of similar to expectations. Other people's pain, often on a regular basis when I meet with my clients, there will be this moment where we're like, you know what, I think you've picked up on somebody else's grief. And then I take them through this process, this energy sovereignty process. So I help them, they learn how to then tune in and be like, oh my gosh, I'm carrying my brother's stuff. I didn't even realize it. I'm carrying some of my brother's energy in my heart. We need to release that, right? And so that stuff. And finally, the last waste is similar. It all overlaps, is nervous system dysregulation. So if you've been in a lot of service, if you've been giving a lot this year, doing a lot, creating a lot, helping a lot, your nervous system might be at its capacity. And so we want to release that tension, and so that your nervous system can increase its capacity to help people without getting overwhelmed. This isn't about helping more people and getting more tired. It's like, oh, now I can help more people and not get dysregulated, not get overwhelmed. That's what the masters like Mother Mary, like Jesus, like Buddha did when they walked as a human. I mean, think about like the Sermon on the Mount when Jesus was like talking to hundreds of people and doing all sorts of things, right? That he was teaching them, he was activating them, he was removing negative energies from them. And we know he was able to do it because he was so tapped into his soul, and he had increased his capacity so that he wasn't overwhelmed by any of it. He wasn't taking on their pain. That's not what he's taught us. He was like, no, I am here as a light. And from that place, he was bringing people back into alignment. And that's what we're being trained to do. Okay? So, as I said earlier, this is meant to be an ongoing practice for you, an ongoing practice of integration. So I want to share with you just these prompts that can help you, okay? And I want to remind you that you want to do this with your soul. This is not a report card evaluation. This is your soul sitting next to you, maybe Mother Mary or Kuan Yin or any other divine being you connect with that loves you unconditionally. If you've been blessed to have a person, a human person like that, your mom, an aunt, a friend, who just loves you unconditionally, and you know, you can imagine like, oh yeah, if I sat with her and did this, she would be so loving. If you haven't had that, that's okay too, but know that your soul and the Divine Mother love you unconditionally. So you're sitting with them, and these are the things you can look back on for the year. First of all, you're going to ask your soul, show me the initiations, the experiences from this year that you want me to reflect on. And maybe there'll be one. Like I just gave you all these examples about Greg and cancer, right? So maybe it'll be one for you. Maybe it'll be multiple for you. Whatever it is, there's no wrong answer. But one is, what was the hardest part of this experience? And just like really tune in. Like, what was it? Sometimes we think it's one thing, but when you really ask yourself, you recognize, oh, it's actually wasn't that. The hardest thing was the unknown. Right? 2, what did you learn? And I already gave you examples of what you could have learned, right? Who or what supported you? So maybe you had a coach, maybe you had a therapist, maybe you had a best friend, right? Or maybe it was more spiritual support. Maybe you had Mother Mary, your guardian angels, maybe your prayer meditation practice. Maybe it was doing yoga every day. Maybe it was, I was talking to a dear friend a week ago. He went through a very difficult initiation this year. And he said for him, it was walking. I think it was like 10,000 steps a day for like 3 months straight, every day. That was his support. So ask yourself that. Next, you're going to ask, what heavy emotions, if any, are still present? So when you look back, is there still some heaviness? Maybe you're like, oh, yeah, I still feel sad. Or, yeah, I still feel mad. I still feel like it was unfair. Or, oh, I still feel embarrassed by it. Just notice without judging it. And then this question is really important after that. How do you want to feel when you look back? So maybe you're like, well, I want to feel really proud of myself when I look back. I want to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of myself for all of that. Or I want to feel so compassionate towards myself. So you decide. Because you're doing this because as you do this, your soul's going to be helping you with this. Then what gifts or medicine did you receive? Again, your soul is going to be with you with this. And next week, when I guide you through the journey and we'll be doing it together, you'll receive the guidance. You'll receive the images. You'll receive like, oh, these are the gifts, right? There'll be a deeper understanding. And then the last one, what simple ritual can help anchor this? Simple ritual. Ritual is one of the things that anchors integrations. And it could be as simple as lighting a candle. If you are going to do a candle, I always suggest that it's a new one that you haven't used for anything else. It's okay if it's been in your house, but you just haven't used it, or go buy a candle, light it, practice candle safety, obviously, and just say a prayer and like, okay, as this candle burns, I'm just integrating. I'm integrating the gifts and releasing the waste. Or go out in nature and meditate in front of the water, or it could be anything. Your soul will guide you. All right? So remember, you are here as a light for the world. I know that sounds so cliche, but you are. And as a light, you are meant to be up on the mountain, lighting it up for everybody, not hidden under a table or anything, right? Your light is supposed to be radiant, and integration is the process that allows you to keep becoming a stronger and 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 stronger light, right? So I thank you so much for being here. I'm going to pull 2 oracle cards. This was a little bit longer than normal, but that's okay. I want to invite you to the Sovereign Helper Retreat next Thursday, August 21st. It is from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock via Zoom. That's Central US time. You will get the replay for a whole month, and it's $44. And with your $44 ticket, you get a free guest pass. So when you purchase it, if there's anybody else you want to invite, they can join for free. You can register through the PayPal link I will have there, or also I know some people aren't on PayPal. You could do through Zelle or Venmo. And as we get closer to the date, I'll be emailing the participants with the Zoom link and just creative suggestions for you to arrive in the best way. And I would love to see you. All right? Okay, so let's pull a card, 2 cards. One is from the Spirit Animal Oracle. By the way, feel the blessing of these amazing lilies. They smell amazing. Like I literally have to move them downstairs to our living room because it's such a strong scent that I'm like, I can't just have them in my room. They're so, amazing. It's like, so I'm sending that to you through the heart waves. So let's see what beautiful spirit animal guide is here to help you integrate. Okay. Love this. You got porcupine spirit, number 48. Time for beginner mind. Look at the beautiful porcupine. Beginner's mind. So your soul is saying there's something in you for integrating to come back to that beginner's mind. That beginner's mind is that like open heart that's willing to be filled by your soul's wisdom, willing to be filled by the divine, right? It's not like, oh, I know everything or I've got it all mastered. So, there's that famous Buddhist story where like the Buddha master, the students like, what can I do? What can I do? I want to learn from you. I want to learn from you. And ask, not pestering, but kind of the Buddha master teacher. And the teacher has, like a glass of water. And he starts pouring water in the glass. And the glass overflows. And the student is still like, well, what should I do? What should I study? And then finally he's like, you're saying like, you're making a mess. And the teacher is saying like, this is how your mind is. It's so full, I can't fill it. You must be in beginner's mind. So your soul is saying, be in beginner's mind. But I love porcupine because porcupine is also about clear, strong boundaries. So this is also like protect your energy and be in beginner's mind. Let yourself open to the wisdom of your soul. Okay. And then let's do, okay. I have to say, as I put it down, the card that was underneath was Brown Bear Spirit. Take a time out. That is the sacred pause. That's what we're going to be doing next week in the retreat. Take a sacred pause. Okay. And then I'm just going to do a Star Temple Oracle since we are here and there's so many amazing astrological events happening right now. Let's see what message is that, and then we will be done. I don't think I've ever gotten this card, and I have used this deck so many times. Okay. Number 9. I don't even know how to say his name. Equipius the Seer, visionary. I chart the stars, signs, and symbols to craft magic. Yesterday, I did an oracle card reading. I sent it in my newsletter, and there was also a crow raven energy. Look at this, visionary. Look at that. So I really feel like the cards before a beginner's mind, take a time out. Why? Because then you're going to get the vision, the downloads, the intuitive hits that your soul wants you to have. All right? How perfect is that? Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you next week, the podcast, and hopefully next week in the retreat. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me and reach out. I would be happy to connect. All right, bye, everyone. Hi, Roxana. So glad you were here. And anybody else who's here, I can't see other names.